Hello, Gappers. This is Glenn Bill, and I'm telling you today you're going to want to listen to this lady, Miss Fee Gentry. She is the co-founder of ONEexp, founder of the Black EXP Network, founder of the Sports Entertainment Influencers Network. If you want to know how to become more transformational and less transactional, you are going to want to hear Fee's story. She is going to be dropping bombs on how to gain influence, how to create networks and associations that benefit all. I can't wait for you to listen in on this episode. What is the roadmap to defeat self-sabotage, negative thinking, and learned helplessness? In these unprecedented times, you must get connected, get growing, get certain, and get attitude. The Get Attitude Podcast. And welcome to the GAP, the Get Attitude Podcast. We are so lucky today that we have a guest that is going to help you bridge the gap from who you are to who you want to become, and will help you get from where you are to where you want to go, because I can tell you this lady has done that. She has bridged the gap in her life. She has bridged the gap in her profession. She is the co-founder of ONEexp. She is also the founder of the SEIN, the Sports Entertainment Influencers Network, and is also the founder of the Black EXP Network. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to the wonderful, the beautiful Fee Gentry. Fee, welcome to The Gap.
Well, thank you for having me, Glenn. I am so excited to be here. This has been a long time making. We've been waiting for this to happen. So good. I'm glad we got on the schedule.
I know we've known each other for a couple years. I liked you from the second I met you, running around the halls of whatever expo center we were at. And so why don't you tell me a little bit about what you do? This is the Influencers and Innovators season, the season of influence and innovators. And when I think about what you've done to innovate and influence, talk to me a little bit about what that is, how you're doing it to change the world, and why you feel like it's your time to do it.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, again, thank you for having me here on the show. It started from my roots. I'm this little girl who grew up on the Monterey Peninsula, and so I grew up near a military base, and then in the Monterey Peninsula, which is a very, utopic society, just filled with all kinds of people. And then and then my sports and entertainment background. So that all brought me to what I'm doing today, which is I believe that the world is a place where everybody has a place to belong and be seen. And so I was fortunate in the real estate industry, going from it just being transactional to transformative. That's what I wanted to do. And I'm able to do that in a way with kind of the things that you just talked about in the introduction. One, founded the Black EXP Network, right, which is the largest group of African-American agents and allies under one roof. We've got 3,200 agents and growing by the day. And then I was really fortunate to co-found with our founder, Glenn Sanford at EXP Realty, the ONEexp Diversity and Inclusion Initiative. And that's in the DNA of our company. So I lead that on a day-to-day basis. And then just recently, the SEIN, which is the Sports Entertainment Influencers Network. So the thing that we're just talking about, and it's people like us who don't just want to, just like we said, we don't want to just have an income, but we are obligated to impact and change the world as agents and influencers, people of high net worth, like I said, entertainers. We are all responsible for this thing that we call life, and it can't just be transactional anymore. We're here to a higher calling.
That's great. And we certainly heard that when we had the great Joe Wright on from the Indianapolis Colts, talking about the coaches that he had going through college and the professional ranks of the NFL, that some coaches were transactional, some coaches were transformational. Talk to us a little bit about your history in sports and entertainment, just so we know what did you do? How did that happen? And who is maybe the most influential person in that piece of your life?
Wow. I was an athlete. So I was a high school athlete, and then I went on to the NCAA, and then I played a little bit overseas, before pre-WNBA. And so after I got out, my degree and background is really in rehab. And so I started working with sports performance, rehabilitation, worked with athletes. So then it went into, I worked with the NFL, NBA, so all these things. And then it just started, because my MBA is in marketing and entrepreneurship, I started creating sponsorship packages, because people were like, hey, how do we create value with the athletic world and the business world? And so I started putting those together, and then personalities of retired athletes and current athletes and professionals. And so I founded a company that's called Hometown Sports Network in Houston, and I was the very first female to start this innovative kind of company that was really pre-online. And so we were doing fundraisers, and then working with, like, you name it, NFL combines, WNBA, basketball camps, tennis events, working with police departments to heal the communities between police departments and the youth. And so we used athletes and sports to help bridge that gap. So that's it. And then the most influential person with that, believe it or not, was Wilma Rudolf.
Awesome. Ooh, tell me about that.
Yeah. She changed in track and field. She changed the sport for women, especially women of color. And so for her, to be a gold medalist and go through all the things that she did, she set that precedent for me. And so she's always probably been my most inspirational athlete in that time. And that was a great influence. And then there's just all kinds of, other athletes that I can just go on, from Michael Jordan to Kobe Bryant, in the sports realm. So, yeah. Now,
did you ever get to speak to Wilma or ever interact with her?
With Wilma Rudolf, no, I did not.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't get to interact with her, but she was always just a favorite of mine.
Yeah, that's obviously what she did was monumental and influential and innovative, and many people would say so. During your sports marketing time, were you able to interact with any professional athletes? And if you did, who grabbed you? Not physically, but who grabbed you emotionally or with their attitude, where you said, man, now I would have never expected an attitude like that, or that's something I learned? Maybe you got a story about somebody that really had an impact on you that you were able to talk with.
I love the attitude of George Foreman.
Really?
George Foreman was probably one of the, and he was toward the end of his career, or he was at the end of his career. He was like, but he kept on coming in and coming back out. But he was impactful because he just understood after being on the other side of the sports career. So, coming back, I think it was like 30 years or 40 years of boxing, right? Or, that he was able to give back, and he understood what being an ambassador was and being a responsibility back to the industry. Who else was? Charles Barkley was interesting to do.
Still
most
is
of the
interesting.
Stuff I can't tell most of the stuff, but doing for him showing up and doing that. Kenny Smith was another person. Kenny Smith. I did a lot of basketball camps with Kenny Smith.
Okay.
He was very influential in terms of again being a role model about. Not only he was about academics and entrepreneurship and business. He really understood that part of it.
So did you interview?
And Kim Pruett.
Okay.
Was probably my favorite. Before she passed away, I had the opportunity to work with her and Cynthia Cooper and Tina Thompson. And so a lot of the Houston Comets, I worked with them in the Houston marketplace. Yeah. So they got it at a high level.
And then you said that Ken was your favorite. What was it about her?
Kim Pruett?
Yeah.
She was just an ambassador, again, just a great ambassador for women's sports. And then in her years when she was battling the disease of cancer, she fought it publicly and fought that through that disease publicly, and continued to encourage people. Even though she was dying, she kept on encouraging a lot of people to go forth and live their life to the fullest. And she did that every single day. And she inspired a lot of young women and girls. Yeah.
And so when you met Charles and Kenny, was that at a basketball thing, or were you interviewing them, or what was we don't need any bad stories. I'm just curious, how did you come across Charles Barkley? He's still obviously very entertaining today.
Yeah. Charles Barkley and all was just, when he was in Houston or in Arizona, my sister was working with the Phoenix Suns at that time, I believe, or Price. She was working with them somehow, so I met him. But Kenny Smith, I kind of knew from, how did I know Kenny? From basketball camps, from the Rockets. I mean, I just kind of always hung out with those athletes and
Cool.
did events and stuff with them a lot. But yeah, so that's how I've known.
Where did you play your college ball?
I played at Long Beach and then Virginia Commonwealth University. Yeah.
Oh, VCU.
VCU.
And then, so what happened? Why did you switch?
Long story.
Did it have to do with attitude?
Yes, probably so. Probably so. Yeah. We'll just use that.
I got you. And so what did, number one, because there are people that are listening this that may be not only switching basketball teams, but maybe they're switching careers. Maybe they're in the same career switching companies. Maybe they're switching husbands or wives. What's your thought, or what's the attitude that you took when it was time for you to change, not only in the basketball scene back in college, but with all the different things that you've started and have created throughout your past years?
Attitude has always been about never making regrets, right? Being whole and complete with yourself, and then moving forward. What's next? And it's having that attitude of expectancy. If you make a mistake, it's just like your last play. You can't focus on that last play, and because when you have that next shot that's coming up, you have to pay attention to that. So that's where it's always to be present and then forward facing with that. So that's what I kind of took away from those next moves, and being valuable, being an asset. Because sometimes you come in with a different attitude, you think you're here and you think you've arrived, but nothing, everything is earned, right? Take things for granted. Because my first day at VCU, I'll never forget this, walked into the gym, it was winter, I transferred mid-season, met this young man named Michael Brown, who was going to be a first-round draft choice at VCU. Talked to him. And 15 minutes later, he had a heart attack and died. He was 20 years old. My first day of practice, basketball practice.
That is something.
The men were in the gym, and he was welcoming me. Hey, welcome to VC, welcome, and blah, 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 glad to have you. He was dead 15 minutes later.
Wow. Well, that will wake you up, give you a new perspective, and certainly affect the old attitude on that. Wow. That's just what a crazy story. Yeah. What talk to me about the coaches you've had in your life. In basketball, we can stay there, and then we can talk about other coaches. Who was the best basketball coach you had? What was their attitude, and what did they teach you most?
Really, believe it or not, my high school basketball coach is probably one of my best basketball, because he helped me get clear on who I was and what role I played on a team, and how to, and he took me from I always wanted to stand back, not be, I always wanted to be lead from the back, and he goes, you can't lead from the back. So he taught me that. Also taught me from being right-handed to left-handed. I was shooting kind of with both hands, and he made me decide. He was like, you're left-handed, and so that was a big thing. Other coaches, believe it, one of my favorite coaches, Pat Summit, during Adidas basketball camp.
Oh, wow.
To be coached by her in Santa Barbara, at a Santa Barbara basketball camp. I was at a blue chip camp or something like that, and she instilled a lot of confidence in us as young women, and it was an honor to be coached by her. Yeah. And
so, and I've heard that before. Her enthusiasm, her encouragement, her belief in the players was one of her strong suits. Did she ever say anything to you or give you any message that stuck out or stays with you today about life, attitude, or how to look at things?
Coach, she said a whole lot. I mean, during camps there. I can't think of anything right off the bat, but like you said, it's that same message. I remember, I still have the book that she autographed for me.
Oh,
and,
wow.
For a 16-year-old kid, I think I was like 15 or 16-year-old kid, for her to autograph this book and to just speak wisdom. And she put me on the all-star team when I think I didn't deserve it. I remember that because she saw potential in me. It was a camp. It was it was a achievers camp or blue chippers camp, and I thought I had a horrible camp. I just did not play well. But because she trusted in me, I do remember that either her or one of the coaches on the staff put me on the all-star team for the all-star game during that camp. That was memorable. Yeah.
Now, as an athlete as well, I played college football. There are people throughout your childhood all the way up to when we say we can't do it anymore. There are teammates. And feel free to share their names. Who affect you, who bring you joy, who teach you things, who open your eyes to a different life of other people. When you think about some of your favorite teammates or your best teammates or the teammates where they stick with you in your head where you go, man, their story is so unreal. Do you have any teammates that come to mind when I bring that up? And what was their story?
Man, I've got a lot. I mean, I've got a lot of them because I've played with a lot of people over the years.
Sure.
Where do you want me to start from?
Just the one that comes to your head, the one that you think might be the most impactful for the people that are here to try to become the person they want to become or to go where they want to go. Just whatever one's the easiest for you that comes to your mind. I'm sure they're all good, but I'd love to give them a flavor of what it was like on who impacted you.
One of them, I'll go with, I was going to say Lisa Wright was one of them. And 5'2" point guard, just played with zeal and fervor, and to come back from ACL repair after ACL repair surgery. She taught me how to come back from mine. Always, and being a coach's daughter. Teaching, she taught us about leadership and team and how to work as a team because she was the quarterback of the team. I think that was some of my favorite times of working with someone like her. And then she went on as a career to become the sheriff's deputy, and her and her husband raised kids, and their daughters are playing college basketball. And so she passed it to like 3 generations of players to watch that. I really admire that story about Lisa. In college, oh gosh, in college I played with a lot of people. Some of those stories I should probably leave off screen.
I'm not trying to have you hang anybody out.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, let me not.
You must have had some rough teammates, girl.
Man, when you play with some of the people I played with over the years, yeah. But yeah,
I can let you off the hook, and we'll keep moving.
Okay.
How does that sound?
Yeah, let me off the hook on that one.
All right. So when we think about your time as a college basketball player ends, right? You graduate. Did you graduate from VCU?
I graduated from VCU. Yes.
Congratulations. And did you
Thank
get
you.
a master's or a doctorate or anything, or?
I got my MBA. I got a master's from Our Lady Lake University, and MBA like 3 years later. or 4 years later, I guess, is when 2000. So I graduated in 2000 with my MBA and entrepreneurship. I also went to physical therapy school. I did not finish my PT school degree because I figured out why being a body mechanic? I was making the money, doing everything. I had already owned 9 businesses, and I was like, why am I going back to school to be a body mechanic? And I knew that I needed to do a higher calling.
And so what? Number one, 2 interesting things. What's the best thing you learned at MBA school? And then tell me, out of those 9 businesses, what was your worst one and what was your best one? Ready, go.
Number one thing I learned in business school was about supply and demand, right? That's learning that supply demand chain and elasticity, right? Price elasticity versus the demand. So I know that people pay for anything that they want, whether it's toilet paper, and it's just how you position it, right? Is it gourmet toilet paper? So that's one. And then number 2, you asked me about.
You said I had 9, and so I think
that. Dude, my favorite business of all things.
Yes.
I felt like I owned a business called Time Vending. It was a vending machine business. I had 50-something vending machines, and we put them in plants. So all these guys are eating, popcorn, candy, gumballs. I was making a killing. So
in the vending business.
Vending business, because that taught me about passive income, right? Because you just put in some product and you sell the product at five times its value, and it's passive. You don't have to be there other than to have the machines reloaded and stocked. That was my favorite.
And collect the quarters.
And collect the quarters, man. That was that crunch time vending, man. But that was the favorite.
What was the worst business you ever created?
The worst business I ever created.
You said you had 9, so there had to be one where you're like, oh boy, this isn't good.
Man, there's some ones that, being an entrepreneur, probably the worst one that we knew we probably shouldn't have done was Oh God, yeah. It was this like a sports network, and that was working. It wasn't a sports network. It was a rehab business, and it was working with post rehab patients and getting reimbursed by health insurance.
Oh, yeah.
That sucked. So we were thinking, okay, and I love working the populations of cancer patients, postpartum pregnancy, all that stuff, heart disease, but dealing with health insurance.
Yeah.
That was the worst. Yeah.
You're never going to get your money. You need an MBA just to have that.
Yep. That was the worst gig right there.
Let's talk a little bit about you moving into the real estate space, right? You've had all these businesses. Have you been in real estate a long time?
Since 2004.
Okay.
Honestly, real estate was Plan F, Glenn. I mean, honestly, it started because my mom was building a house in Texas. And I had just crashed and burned in physical therapy school. My life was a relationship breakup. It was just one of those, business was that business failure that was not going well. And I just said, man, I just needed a win, right? Because I just kept on having loss after loss after loss. And so my mom, was like, I need you to watch my house, and I need you, she was like, and my family did an intervention. It was 4th of July. I'll never forget. It was 4th of July. My family was like, you're working, you're burnout. Come home. And my mom said, you stay home for 6 months but I need you to watch this house being built. I was like, oh, okay. So that's how it all started. A real estate home being built. And the commissioner of Texas, the real estate commissioner of Texas, started talking to me, and she was like, there's something about you. You could be in the top 1% in real estate. And I was like, lady, I didn't go to school for, I didn't get to go to school for all this to become a real estate agent. I didn't think very highly of real estate agents, right, at the time. And honestly, I didn't. And so she's like, no. And then but I had remember reading all the books with, Kawasaki and, Millionaire Next Door. All of them had, their assets and starting their roots in real estate. So I was like, okay. So I was like, oh, I'll give it a try. And honestly, I didn't know a lockbox from a listing. And sold 39 homes my first year because I knew how to market.
Every broker's dream. I don't know. I just sold 39 homes, right?
Yeah, I had no clue, right? I thought I sucked. And then they were like, well, you won. I won this little bronze medal. And I was kind of pissed because I'm, I was like, oh, there's a silver and a gold.
Right.
So I'm very competitive. I was like, okay, so what else can I do? And so I took my career from there.
Yeah, how about that? And then now you have evolved into this major influencer in the real estate space with what you're doing, and which is probably a higher calling, much more fulfilling than opening doors, going to closings, and putting signs in yards. And as you probably know, we were just so fortunate enough, Jason and I, to be given the Communicator Award for Diversity and Inclusion. And I've always respected and loved what you do. The fact that you are the co-founder of ONEexp, which, I speak to real estate companies all over the spectrum, and I'm not sure that I've ever seen anything like this. So I'd love to, let's start with ONEexp, the big thing. Then we'll go down to the Black EXP network because I want to talk a little bit about that too. But talk to me about just this whole mission and vision of ONEexp. What's it mean? Why is it so innovative, which it is? And tell our listeners, maybe the people listening have something inside of them. They go, there's more to my life than what I'm doing. There's more than this job that I have. That's what I want to hit on too. I know you're going to tell me about it, but what was it inside of you that made you recognize there's more to this than what I got to do?
Perfect. So let's go back and talk about EXP. The EXP's DNA, we have 9 core values and principles, and our founder, Glenn Sanford, had always envisioned, when he created this in his mind, he always created a world where everybody had a place to belong, that our business platform was equitable. Like, if there's no side deals that are made. There's no good old boys network that could take a franchise. We're a brokerage model. And so within that, he also wanted to create a universe where everybody, like I said, had the opportunity to belong and to have the equal opportunity to succeed. And he understood, though, that some people have a different way of have different levels of participation in the industry, and that real estate is not the same. Yes, the X's and O's of real estate are probably the same, but not everybody understands, has a different experience with real estate, where they come from. I'll give you an example. One of our colleagues was talking about farming, and he said, he said, yeah, my community, my family has farmed this community for 6 generations. And another agent who was sitting next to me, who's a black agent, said, yeah, we did too, but we were farming it. It was they were working it as opposed to being in the farm. So it's those kind of experiences that people have, or, redlining, or somebody who's, a veteran, that they move all the way. I mean, so there's all these different things that are different of how we experience real estate on a diverse platform of people who've been there.
Yeah.
And so, what ONEexp is, our mission is to become the most diverse and inclusive real estate brokerage in the world.
Awesome.
And on top of that, we also want to change the industry where it is, because we know that there are some huge discrepancies and disparities with real estate. And then moving forward, we understand that we have an obligation as a company to lead and take the forefront on making sure that we create a path for everybody moving forward in the industry, because that's the only way this industry is going to continue to succeed, and not making differences, because people think about diversity as, color, sex, gender, and all that. We're talking about different perspectives, because that's where diversity innovation comes from. So we took it a higher level. Just forget about just regular diversity and inclusion, because people kind of push back on that. But if we show that there's a business case showing that the higher the more diversity that you have within a company and an industry, the better the industry does overall. There's science, there's research and studies that show that women in leadership, people of color in leadership, people living around the world, and that we do it in conjunction with our quote straight white male counterparts. That's because people were pushing back against that. That's who's important, right? Those are the key stakeholders, that we do it in partnership. To not exclude everybody. So that's what we do.
That's such a beautiful mission, and it's never, ever stated like that. And I think to take that higher ground, to redefine what diversity and inclusion can mean and what it should mean is really, really a great step in the right direction. And that's just got to be so exciting for you to continue to state this over and over. And my guess is that you've been received extremely well. I've been in, around, I've watched it, but that's the first time I've really heard it explained like that. And I do believe that is the future. So congratulations on that definition and that mission. What's your biggest challenge in doing this?
Biggest challenge is I have more vision than I do people. So sometimes it's right. I know
the problem.
Yeah. So we have ambassadors and people. We need more people, like-minded people, to come forth, because we have such a big. Because we called it ONEexp 1.0. Now we're in ONEexp 2.0, which we're taking it global.
Right.
So it's not. Yeah. So it's not even just a domestic vision. It's an international vision. So now we need more people to help fulfill the vision. And so it's taking leaders like yourself. So Glenn, I'm going to have you off the sidelines because you do a lot of work, right? But to pull you in and have you participate. And that means being an ambassador. That's speaking, training, helping people with their production. I have a 3, and it's a repeatable process, because people think diversity and inclusion is just like this program. It's a repeatable, proven process and a system on how we do it. There's the personal part, where it's your personal finances and your personal production. Then there's the community, where you're responsible for helping influence and impact your community. And then there's the industry. How do we change the industry? How do we help get new thought leadership in? So we all can participate in all 3 of those levels.
Yeah. And that'll be ONEexp 20.0.
Right. Right. And then having an impact and an income. I think, like I said, where we are in our, especially you and I in our careers, we've done the transactions.
Sure.
It's now time. How do we have an impact? How do we change and work on the next generation? And that's what Glenn was thoughtful about too. Using our young professionals. So most people are like, why is young professionals on diversity and inclusion? Because they are. The young people are our future, and they understand the world in a utopic, in a global society, like better than anybody else. And so having young people lead the future is where it's at. So
no question that the 20 somethings out there come from a completely different place, space, and mindset than old dogs like us. And so then when we talk about, to drill that down, which I'm really passionate about, is African-American home ownership, right? And this gets into the 3,200 agents that we have at Black EXP Network. That started before ONEexp. You were the founder of that.
That's correct.
Talk to me about, what was the impetus? I mean, what did you sit down and go, dang it, we need to do this? Or
No, dude, I'll tell you what happened. Literally, I joined EXP in May of 2017, so it's been exactly 4 years. And I'd be at these events, and I'd be the only black person in the room. Me or maybe like Brian Russo. There might be 2 or 3 black people.
Wally.
Yeah, right. And so it was like, I was like, man, there are decisions that are being made in the company. There's pieces, gold nuggets that are there, but we weren't in the room. And so Jason Guessing, of all people, we're playing golf. Golf, and Jason was like, "Fee, you should start a black network at EXP." And I was like, dude, no. Like, I was like, we had just had an election, and I was like, I don't want to. He was like, no. He was telling me, he's like, there's a difference to how African American community experiences real estate, especially overall in your community. It's with fair housing, he's and I'm like looking at Jason like, what? I was like, so I was like, I don't know, Jason. Fast forward to December, and he was like, Fee, have you started the Black EXP network yet? And then here comes Julie from the Pride Network, the LGBTQ community. She's like, Fee, you really need to start it. And I kept on waiting for somebody else. And then I was like, why not me? So I made a commitment because I did, be the change you want to see.
Right.
And so I knew that that was the change that I wanted to see. And so created the Black EXP network off of the movie Wakanda, or the Black Panther. I wanted to create a society for black agents and allies, so others like yourself, who wanted who were in for creating, closing the gap between home ownership, closing the gap between education, wealth, all of that through these innovative programs for African American agents and allies. And so that's what we did. And so it's education, training, awareness. We're having our first event in Puerto Rico next week, again, to teach about agent attraction. One of the really great things about EXP, because our culture and community is always talking about, we want to leave a legacy for our kids. Well, you're not going to leave a legacy with your kids for doing transaction after transaction. You need all three, which is passive, active, and residual income. Yeah. And that's what I believe EXP provides that platform. And especially it's really good for black agents.
That is so cool. We are with the great Fee Gentry, and we only got a couple minutes. I just want to hit on the SEIN, the Sports Entertainment Influencers Network. Talk to our folks about what that is, how they can get involved, where they can engage, and how they may benefit by checking you out.
Sure. So the SEIN, I was so excited about them. Colin Jacobs and myself founded it, of course, because of our backgrounds. We just love sports. And we know that one thing about sports brings you to the world and the world back to you, right? And so we know that is the universal language is sports, entertainment, influencers. We know that that's a network of people in a special niche that is really different. It's like, and so we knew that if we could get agents to engage, and it doesn't have to be a pro team, or you're not representing, Jennifer Aniston and like in George, in George Lopez or somebody. Right. But we knew that you could be the mayor you could be the celebrity representative in your town, the little league team, or Disney if you're in Florida, Disney, or wherever you are in your town. If you're the coach, that you're working with coaches in your town as colleagues. But the other part about it was more important than any of the sports entertainment influencers part is that, again, it's from transformation. I mean, being from transactional to transformative in changing in people's lives and giving back. And that's, we have a responsibility globally, domestically as we go. So as EXP grows globally, we'll be like the Black EXP Network. We're going to be sponsoring agents over in South Africa to help them get their license. And then not only that, we're also going to be providing, setting up sports fields for kids. So it'll be, imagine, EXP we're funding for the future. Other brokerages have just, they go and take. We want to come there, set up sports fields, scholarships to help other agents enable them to get into the community, into the field.
And so the SEIN will be working in conjunction with EXP on certain initiatives, I would Yes.
Right. They're under the ONEexp umbrella as well. Yes.
All
yes. And so they
right.
can join on the workplace. So they go into EXP Workplace and they can join. We're also going to have some live events around the country. So as we're coming out of this COVID environment, you'll get to see us and you'll get to learn, you might get to be certified, get a certification on how to be a sports entertainment and influencer real estate agent, how to work in that niche, what it looks like for non-disclosure, confidentiality, working with non-disclosures, how to work the concierge services, luxury investments, etc.
I love it. Well, I want to respect your time, but I do want to make sure that you have an opportunity to give a message of hope to our gappers, to our folks that are listening, who have come here, who have clicked on your beautiful picture that said, I think I need to listen to Fee Gentry. What is your one message of hope for the people that want to get from where they are to where they want to go, from who they are to who they want to become? What's your one piece of Fee Gentry advice?
I always kind of talk about this. Never be limited by other people's limited expectations of who you are, right? Just who you are and where you came from is not where you are, of what you're destined to be. What we think and what we believe is what takes us forward. And so we always have to be aware of that. A lot of times people want to put labels on us, and the only label and self-limitation is what we put on ourselves. Never let someone else limit who you are and who you want to be in your life. So that's kind of my life lesson, is never be limited by other people's limited limitations of you.
I love it. And I can tell you this lady does not put limitations on anyone that she's around, and especially herself. I cannot wait to see the accomplishments, the change, and the transformation that you make inside your company, but more importantly, outside in our world. Fee Gentry, thank you so much for being a honored and esteemed guest on the Get Attitude podcast, and we will see you very soon.